Christ there at the altar. Go and be reconciled with that person. Then come and offer your sacrifice to God. Step 10. When continue to take personal inventory and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 1 Corinthians 10:12. If you think you are standing strong, be careful not to fall. Step 11. We sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. Colossians 4:2. Devote yourselves to prayer with an alert mind and a thankful heart. And the last step, which is my favorite one, matter of fact, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry out this message to others and to practice these principles in all their affairs. Galatians 6:1. Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by sin, you are godly should be gently and humbly help this person back into the right path and be careful not to fall. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you, Miracle.
Oh, Willie, it's Willie's turn.
Good evening. That don't sound right. Tonight I am doing humble heart. A humble heart. Sounds simple, but no. The more I studied on it, the harder it got. You can't hear?
Yeah, it's hard to hear.
How about that?
It's a little bigger.
Can we deal with that?
There you go.
Alright. A humble heart. We humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. After examining our lives closely, we may feel cut off from God, considering the scope of what we have done. We may feel unworthy to ask God for anything. Maybe our sinful behaviors are despised as the lowest kind of evil by those whom we consider respectable. We may struggle with self-hatred. Our genuine remorse may cause us to wonder if we even dare approach God to ask Him for help. God welcomes us, even when we feel this way. Jesus told this story. Two men went to the temple to pray. One was a Pharisee, the other was a despised tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed this prayer. Thank you, God, that I am not like other people, cheaters, sinners, adulterers. I'm certainly not like the tax collector. I fast twice a week, and I give you 1/10 of my income. But the tax collector stood at a distance and dared not even to lift his eyes up to heaven to pray. And he prayed. Instead, he beat his chest in sorrow, saying, "Oh God, be merciful to me, for I am a sinner. I tell you." This sinner not the Pharisee, returned home justified before God. For though who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Tax collectors were among the most despised citizens in the Jewish society. Pharisees, on the other hand, commanded the highest respect. Jesus purposely chose this illustration to show that it does not matter where you fit in society's I'll get it out here in a minute. Society's hierarchy.
There you go. I was trying to find you where you read, sorry.
It is a humble heart that opens the door to God's forgiveness. Sounds real simple, but, you know, you don't have to be a scholar to tell him how you feel. You just got to be honest with him,
Yes.
plain and simple. And that takes work. That's all I got.
Thank you, Willie. Thank you, Willie.
Thanks, sir.
Hey, all right. I know, I'm reflecting. See how long that took. Reflections never, my reflections don't talk to me, so good place to be now.
That's not what you told me earlier.
Well, I was thinking about back then to now. I have a quote. It is not having been in the dark house, but having left it that counts. Theodore Roosevelt.
Hit me again,
From here or over there? Oh.
the quote. Yeah, hit me from over there.
I think we call that film Froggy back in the day. Here we go. It is not having been in the dark house, but having left it that counts.
I like that.
Have I ever compared my faults, problems, and sins to blatant sins of others, such as robbery, murder, and adultery to justify avoiding deeper works on my own character defect? What has this done? What does this do for me? When I read this, I started circling like which one I did use to blame my faults on and others. So I seen it now. I didn't see a thing happening. It was very destructive, highly destructive way to be. It wouldn't have got me out of my life I lived then if I didn't stop, or learn to stop, or something taught me to stop, or
So, how did you stop?
I had a desire.
Okay.
I had a
You
willingness.
said you had several different.
I had so much crap happen to me in that world that I was just like, oh, it's just me and my drug. Yay, it's just me and my drug. And it was like, finally, I was tired of being lonely and sick and, you know, chased off from everywhere I went because I was on drugs. And I seen the people around me, like my, I call them heroes, you know, that other people I look up to, and I wanted something different in my life. I didn't know what it was or how to get there, but as I grew up, I learned.
Awesome.
Can I move on?
Well, you created another question, so.
Okay, come on.
Is that what you were feeling?
No, say it again.
I didn't ask it.
Oh, you
So,
already, sorry.
how, you said I didn't know how to get there, but, you started growing. And so, somebody may be interested in knowing, how to begin, how to do it.
Well, honestly, I had something pop up in my life where I was told if I didn't stop doing drugs that drugs were gonna make the other problem worse, and that I wouldn't live more than up to 7 to 15, and if I lived more than 15 years, I'd live a regular life. But if I kept drugs in my life, that I wasn't gonna have a life. And that's what started me, and so I started seeking people out, like finding out, well, who's the people that helps these people? And I was young, and everywhere I called says, oh, sorry, we only help people that are 32 years or older, or you have to be over 40, or you have to be a vet, or you have to been getting out of prison. And I was like, I didn't have none of that. You know, I had a sickness and basically a death certificate waiting for me if I kept doing drugs. And people, the more that I like asked around, and especially like when I was in the hospital and stuff back then, people would tell me names, and just I wasn't from here, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know who to ask. So I started asking nurses. I'm like, where can I go? So every time I have to come back to the hospital, I'm not strung out on drugs, and you know I can come to my appointments. And then that's when a lady was brought to me, she came to see me, and a guy. And I went and stayed with them at the Hope House.
Yes.
You know, I wasn't from prison. I didn't fit in with those guys, you know. But I still stayed there. And Kathy helped me a lot, you know. That's how mine started. It started before then, but I really didn't understand that I needed to really quit drugs until they looked me in my eyes and told me that. Did I quit immediately? No. I did not. I had longer periods of clean time. But, I mean, yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is that all? Oh,
At this point,
yes.
Anything like becoming aware and realizing you have a problem?
Oh.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Doug, is that right?
I have
That's the first thing,
I
you
can't
gotta
do it,
admit
Willie.
that you have a problem,
I
recognize that you have.
can't do the other
right?
quote, Willie. I feel like I'm on the other quote, but it's, never mind, next.
next.
It is not having been in the dark house, but having left it that counts.
I like that.
That fits kind of what
Yeah,
that fits it. It's like, I don't have to go back to that dark house, and I don't have to make my house that dark house no more.
Yeah,
I don't have to make this temple that dark house no more.
it is. And who cited that quote? Who gave the quote? Roosevelt.
Theodore.
See,
President.
This is my favorite, one of my favorites. Have I ever justified myself because I attended church, sing in the choir, or do service work? I'm not answering this question for the first part of what I thought, because my brain kind of went somewhere different with that question, honestly. Maybe I have in the past, but not so much now. I thought, well, everything's fine. I can go get high because I'm over here at the church and I'm hanging out with so-and-so, and you know, I could just sneak over here. You're not even looking. I go right next door to where we're working.
Question down, because I couldn't understand. I didn't understand where they were going.
No, I didn't. Yeah, that kind of tricked me.
I couldn't hear what you said, Willie.
I couldn't get where they were going with question two. I need to break it down for them to where I can understand it.
He says you need to break it down for him so he can.
No, he said, okay, delegation here. Doug just said that I have to say what I said I wasn't gonna say.
No, I didn't say you had to say
Oh,
it.
okay, this is what I thought. I'll say it. Have I ever justified myself because I attend church? No. No. My addiction in church, I didn't cover up my addiction with church. I didn't start like, oh, well, you're using, oh, well, I go to church, I go to
Let's break
church.
down the question and just read the first part of it.
Okay, just read it.
And have I
Have I ever
ever
justified-
justified myself?
Oh, wait. Yes, I have, back in my teenage years.
Okay.
Because, I go to youth group every Wednesday, but I smoke weed every other day.
So, if in that case, could that be in the deal? Well, I do some good and I do some bad, and so I'm okay.
We smoked the weed at church, outside. Me and the kids would sneak out from the youth group
Yeah.
and go smoke the weed.
So it's okay to smoke weed at church. That makes it special.
That's how I justified it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I couldn't smoke it back at the group home or my mom's house. So when we found an opportunity to go to like Roller King or church or something, we were like, oh yeah, we'll get on the bus.
Okay.
So that's a way of justifying it, I think. I mean, sing in the choir, never have I. Right? Simple. It's like saying, okay, can't say it. Do you service work? Is that like saying if I do service work, but I do so much service work, I don't
If
have
I
care-
do so much good, that justifies me to do some bad. Basically.
Okay, so while I'm doing the good and I got an 8-ball and a pipe in my pocket, but I'm not letting them know that, but I'm not doing good, so it's okay for me to have that.
It's, we talked here a few weeks ago about using rationalization, to offset
Because, yeah, if you don't have to have rational, yeah,
to rationalize something,
yes.
to make you feel okay about something that you know that's not right, or not healthy, or not beneficial. And so, if you've got to rationalize it, if you got to rationalize what you're doing, you're in the middle of a relapse, is what the information said.
Well, okay, then that goes with the thing a couple weeks ago when the girl asked me that I knew what was wrong with me, and I says, oh, I'm having a relapse, and she goes, are you using? And I says, no, it's a spiritual relapse. And she's like,
Yeah.
I haven't always believed in Jesus. I was being honest with her, you know, and I was hurting, I was in some pain, you know, and your brain just, you gotta be careful when you're in pain, because you can
Strict.
pick up that addiction.
Yes. Yes.
It says, no, I might be wrong, but it says, you do all that, but it don't just have to be church, you put anything in there, can't you?
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about, that, service work, doing any type of, good deeds for others.
Volunteering or
Volunteering,
doing a good deed,
you know,
so, yeah.
I hear often people say, well, I'm a good person. So that makes up for.
Okay.
And the trouble is, there is nothing wrong with doing good stuff. There's nothing wrong with singing in the choir and not being perfect, okay? But if you're trying to justify your bad by the good, then that's what this question is asking. I think it's beneficial to do the good when you're doing the bad, to help you to let go of the bad and become more of the good. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, but sometimes we say, well, if I can't be all good because I'm bad, then I just won't do any good. I won't read the Bible. I won't go to church. I'll just be all bad. But see, that doesn't get you where you want to go, right?
No.
So here we're talking about an attitude, right? We're not trying to diminish the behaviors, it's the attitude of trying to rationally justify my bad because I do something good. And that's a normal response, okay? But the fact of it is, how's that work out for you?
Well, that goes with this question.
Go.
Do I judge others by their lack of participation and involvement? Well, heck yeah, I'm just, not me personally, I'm just saying. It's like I've seen it where, well, I've probably done that in the past, but, or sometime, like you're justifying yourself for all these things, then you get caught. Well, is that when you start judging? Is that when you say, well, and
That's that judging is justification.
yeah. But you're not gonna tell on yourself or somebody else till you, some people till they get caught. And when they get caught, they take their whole team down with them. After self-examination and step 4, 5, and 6, have I been struggling with self-hatred and shame? I guess, because I don't like the first 6 steps. No. I was waiting to get to this one.
Yeah,
I really was.
I think this is one of the most important
This is my
questions.
favorite ones. And this question, after self-examination and steps 4 through 6, have I been struggling with self-hatred and shame? Oh, dude, I've been
Yeah.
through some things in the past couple years. But in the past few months, I've been through some things that I had to go through, some self-hatred and some shame. Some of it I brought on myself, and some of it was brought on by people that had a lack of all the information. And I had to go through some stuff where I picked on myself more. I mean, I don't like being put in certain situations, but when you live the steps, it's different sometimes than just reading them and giving you guys some answers, or not even, there's people working steps that don't even get up like this or even go to the meeting.
Yes.
It's real. It really is real.
Doug used to say we're our worst own worst enemy sometimes. Right, Doug?
Absolutely, we're our biggest enemy.
The biggest critic.
Yeah, can be, and we shouldn't be, but we get oftentimes off.
Hey, if anybody, I beat myself up better than anybody else can.
You won't let or stand for anybody doing it.
No, and when
Exactly.
someone else does it, it's like all of a sudden all these chemicals are produced in my body and brain, and all of my thinking patterns are all different. It's like, let's take a moment to reflect. Any questions?
It's like your family or kids, you know, you pick on them, but if somebody picks on them, it's like, okay, now you gotta fight on your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of could be blood family. There's like church family and like, you know, even family, like people.
Right.
Here's one. Just because I got clean doesn't mean I ain't still related to those people. Sorry, they're still my family.
Yeah.
My sobriety does it might change it a little bit, but it doesn't. I don't know. I've said enough. I plead the fifth.
How's that work for you? Thanks, Tommy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Welly. Thank you, Miracle.
Thank you.
So did he break it down enough for you, or do we need?
Yes, I figured it out.
I'm confused. It's okay to be there for a little bit.
Actually, in a lot of cases, confusion means that you have opposing facts that you believe that now are challenging each other, so
Yeah.
that you can come to a consensus.
That was happening.
Yeah.
Give you more room to grow and.
Yeah.
I wanted to
It
say a few
works.
things that had some spice and flavor to it that you probably don't want to say them. You know, I could have said them wrong and nobody came out wrong. I don't know if I would have been, you know what I'm saying? I've learned thinking before I speak sometimes, even when I don't have much time to plan for it. Works better.
One quote that, and by the way, to our viewing audience, we had some technical problems on our video, so that's the reason why it came on in the middle of Miracle reading the steps. So anyway, we're glad we got it worked out. At least I think we do, and now we're in good shape. So I wanted to read this quote by Viktor Frankl. It came to my mind while you were speaking, Tommy, and the quote is this: between stimulus and response, there is a space. Think about it. Between stimulus and response, there's a space, right? Okay,
It's between here and there.
you bet. And in that space is our power, is our or my or your power to choose your response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. What do you think about that? Good?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, some thoughts to kind of maybe wrap up on our step information. Any thoughts from anybody before I start talking? No? Okay. All right. Some things that I wanted to share, and when I was doing the step information, I actually had this thought. Of course, you on video land didn't hear this, so I'll say it now, and that is that I entitled tonight, one of my titles was Trapped in a System of Life. Trapped in a system of life. We can be trapped in a system that we're living in life, that we're not even aware that we're trapped. But the picture that came to my head while I was thinking about this was like a mouse or a rodent that's running in the wheel. They're just running. They're real busy, but they're not going anywhere, right? But they're running. And we can get trapped in the system of life. And that thought came to me as I read this information from today, and to be more specific, see if I can find it. I think here it is. Well, to recap, Jesus told a story about two men in the temple that they were praying. One was a Pharisee, one was a tax collector. You guys up to speed with me? Yes, you should be. The Pharisee, I'm going to paraphrase here, he stood up and he prayed, thank God that I'm not as bad as a tax collector. I'm not cheated, I don't sin, I don't commit adultery, I even fast twice a week. He does good stuff. Could that? Yeah. So could that be some rationalization that we was talking about a while ago? And I give a tenth of my income. Now, those are all good things. There's nothing wrong with what he said, okay? But if you have to use that to justify yourself, I wonder what that means.
What was he covering up?
There you go. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good. Well, see, that was some of the things that I was thinking about. So then when you go to the tax collector, he stood up, and the tax collector, he knew he was messed up, right? But he went to church anyway, right? He went to temple. Actually, it was temple. He went to temple, and he came to God and he was sorrowful. He beat on his chest. Okay, he said, "Oh God, be merciful to me, a sinner." He knew that he was messing up. Okay, how many times have I talked to people, they knew they were messing up, but they don't want to mess up, but they're still messing up, and they're trying all that they can try, and they're still messing up, right? We're not excusing it. That's the reason why we say here Saturday Night Live, you're welcome here in whatever condition you're in, as long as you don't interfere with anybody else. You're welcome here, whether you're high, drunk, angry, whatever, okay? As long we love you and accept you. We may not like your stuff, but hey, you don't even like your stuff, okay? So that's what Saturday night's about. And so he said, God, be merciful to me, for I'm a sinner, okay? Jesus said this, he said, I tell you, this sinner, not the Pharisee, I underlined this in a highlighter here. Not the Pharisee. Pharisee is someone that was more of a religious teacher. he had a position in the religious organization. How about that? All right? And he was someone that knew the scriptures, okay? And he returned. Okay, let's back up. Start that sentence again. I tell you, this sinner, not the Pharisee, returned home justified before God. So the sinner, can I say that again? The sinner returned home justified. The sinner returned home justified. Now, how can that be? I wrote this down. How could that be? How could the sinner go home justified? Well, he says this. He tells us. He said, but the Pharisee, he wasn't justified. For those who exalt themselves, which he was saying, he was justifying all the good, okay, and he was praying out loud so everybody could hear it, right? And he's putting others down at the same time, all right? So he's building himself up and pushing other people down. And he said that for those who exalt themselves will be humbled, all right? So the trouble is, when we try to rationalize it, and I said this when Tommy was speaking, when we try to rationalize our wrongs, we're trying to justify them somehow by offsetting them with good, then that's a hard issue. And what Jesus is talking about here is humility, being humble towards God, knowing that I got a problem and it's bigger than me, and God, I need some help. I think that's step one, right? So he goes on and says, for those who exalt themselves will be humble, and those who humble themselves will be exalted, or raised up, or made right, and right standing. That righteousness is right standing with God. And so the tax collector, he was being despised, okay? And hey, there's enough, yeah. He did some stuff, okay? Right? We legalistic mindset people think that everybody should be flawless. But how about you? How's that working for you? And thank God for His grace, right? Amen. And so the idea here is, it is the humble heart that opens the door to God's forgiveness. The humble heart. And that's because it's being, you're accepting the reality and not trying to alter the facts by rationalization. Yes, this is what I did, but that's not who I am. I need some help. Help me. And that's being humble when you ask that, right?
Well, that might, you'll be wrong, but that kind of makes me think about the thief the two thieves
Sure.
On the cross. One's like, hey, I'm the sorry, cruddy person, just.
We deserve to be here.
I don't even deserve to go to heaven
Right.
with you kind of attitude, just admit it, and then God says you're going to be in the paradise, and then the other one's just,
Right.
that's what makes me come to mind. I mean, the other thief could have went to heaven with him too if
Absolutely.
he had said, hey.
Yeah, if
If
he if he would have opened up his heart.
Yeah, which he didn't, that's
Right.
what's sad.
And Jesus said to the one that did open up his heart, you'll see me today in paradise. He didn't ask for forgiveness.
He didn't ask to take him to heaven.
He didn't ask, the closest he got was, think of me.
Yeah,
And see, that's faith.
right.
And he had faith that he was. And that pleases God. And that establishes our relationship, not our doings. Yes, we need to have good doings. That's beneficial to us in our life and in our relationships and in our world. And we want to do as much as that as we're able to do. But that doesn't give us the right relationship. It's the humble heart.
There's hope too that knows that here we are, 40, 50, ever how old you are in life, and then just finally decide that, okay, I need God, that it's never too late.
Never too late.
Never too late.
Never too late.
That should get people hope out there.
I did a funeral yesterday, and I started on my notes, and I had a lot of notes because I didn't know for sure what all was going to go. So I usually am extremely prepared, like I am tonight. I got 4 pages of notes, 6 pages of notes, come to think about it, and I don't use very many of them, but I studied it. I know I have it, and so when we started that service, I just left. Before I got started, I was off my notes and sharing with them, because most of them felt really bad because this young man had passed away because of some situations, and now I told him, I said, just because he did maybe some bad things, and who here hasn't done some bad things? Just because he's done some bad things doesn't mean that he's a bad person. He just did some bad stuff. And he didn't even like it. But he did it. And maybe this is one of the reasons why I thought of this. I'm, being trapped in a system of life, because he was trapped in a system of life having to do with drugs and other things. And those systems grab a hold of you, and they run you. They work you over. And when they get a hold of you, they don't really want to let go of you. And there's a part of you that don't want to let go of the system because you're familiar with it. You've danced with it for so long. You're more familiar with it than where you'd really like to go.
You said justified it enough, but now it's just.
And it's tough. It's
Yeah.
tough stuff.
Yeah.
And but the point here is, it's not our bad stuff and it's not our good stuff that would separate us from God. It's our unwilling heart of being closed and hardened and not humble towards God. And if we're humble, have a humble heart towards God, then that means our heart has been opened. And that means you're having faith. And that pleases God. You say, well, I'm not good enough. It's not based on your goodness. It's based on His grace. Right? So, the Pharisee went to church, temple, but he didn't get anything. Other than maybe he felt like people recognized him and maybe gave him a little bit of prestige because of his position and his words. And okay, but the fact of it is, the question is, did he grow in his relationship and his spiritual walk with God by what he did in the temple that day and how he prayed? The answer, according to Jesus,
No.
was no. But the tax collector, the sinner, as it was stated, he went there looking for something, and he opened up his heart, and God met him there. And Jesus said he will go home justified. So the question is, when he went to temple, did he get something? Well, according to Jesus, he did. And so the question is, it's not the temple, It's not what you do, but it's your heart. It's whether you have a humble heart or you don't have a humble heart. That's the point of today's message. Would you agree with that? So, the sinner grew. He grew. I have to believe he grew a little closer to God that day. Wouldn't you?
Yes.
And so then the question is,
Still have those moments.
yeah, I hope so.
Did he arrive? Did that guy get it done and finish that day? No.
Hey,
Right?
being honest.
But we either get better or we get worse, right? And we make those choices, okay? And so the sinner made those choices. The tax collector made those choices. I remember a guy, I just not thought of this. I remember a guy that I went to visit his wife in the hospital in Springfield many years ago. And her husband was there. And I was visiting with him, and somehow our conversation came around to, he told me that the church in the town that they lived in had invited him not to come to church there with his wife. And so his wife stopped going there. And the reason why they didn't want her to come, the reason why they didn't want him to come was because he had a convenience store and he sold alcohol. And they didn't want him to come. Yeah, and so she had been coming to church, and he started coming to church, and I know I asked him. The reason why he told me this, started telling me the story, because I asked him when he was going to join the church. He told me, "You don't want me." I said, "What do you mean I don't want you with the church?" "Sure, the church wants you." He said, "Well, this church did this to me, and my wife no longer goes there. And of course, we've been attending here." And I said, "Okay, so when are you going to join the church?" He said, "I just told you that you don't want me because I have this establishment that we sell alcohol." I said, "Hey, that's between you and God. We're talking about you and the church." That's what I did. I don't know if that was verbatim, but that was pretty close. And so he just kind of looked dumbfounded. And he said, "Well, what about the alcohol?" I said, "That's between you and God. I'm not telling you what you're supposed to do. That's between you and God. Is it not between you and God?" And so,
I have a friend that cleans rooms and cleans the bingo part and the casino part at the casino. And she's like, "Did I really go to church?" And I'm like, she don't deal or anything in money and anything, but I mean, she's like, she asked me the same thing, and I'm like, "You're cleaning the bingo hall,
well, the conclusion of the story
Yeah.
is that he came to me many months. They joined the church, okay, and many months later, he came to me because he wanted to eliminate the alcohol in his convenience store, but the alcohol was most of the money that he made in the convenience store.
Right.
And he was on a strip where there was a lot of traffic, and so he didn't know how he was going to survive if he eliminated the alcohol. And so he struggled with it. He prayed about it. He sought God over it. It's between him and God, right?
Right.
And he felt like he was supposed to do it. He and his wife prayed about it. So he went to the guy that actually had the loan on it and told him what he was going to do. And he says, "Well," he said, "that's the majority of your income is half of it, I think, around half of it." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "But I'm just going to believe God will provide." And that's a tall order. right? It's a tall order. That's a big, big deal. And you said, well, how can that be? You're making this story up. No, I'm not making it up. And he stopped.
He made it, didn't he?
He made it. And he stayed in that place for several more years, and then he decided that he didn't want to be in that business any longer. And so he went and managed a different business. And but the fact of it is, that was between him and God. And he worked through that with God. And maybe you could apply this story to the situation in your life. What do you think about that? Could this maybe apply for you? It's between you and God. I tell people all the time, particularly when they come to me with marital issues, and they say, well, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so told me I ought to just get a divorce. I said, well, you're not going to hear that from me. That's not my choice. That's only you and God know what's going on. Now, I'm not saying that you can't get a divorce. I think that's a problem. But the fact of it is, most people that tell me this story is they're frustrated because everybody just says, just give up and go on. And I said, hey, until you know what you need to do for sure, absolutely, then you need to hang in there no matter what anybody else says. And everyone that I've ever said that to have thanked me for that information. So anyway, a couple of stories there. Sorry if that didn't tie in. So, all right, let's go. So these life systems that we're stuck in, and see, this man I was talking about was stuck in a system. I didn't think about that until just now. This man was stuck in the system, okay? And these different people that have come to me about their marriages, they're in the middle of a system, and all these opposing forces is telling them what they should do. People was telling this businessman what he should do, because everybody wants to give us their opinion. They're just trying to be helpful, okay? But the fact of it is, I have a personal rule. If you don't ask for my opinion, I will not give it to you. And even if you do ask for my opinion, even if you ask for my opinion, I still might not give it to you.
Right.
Okay, because you need to come, it's between you and God, and you need that. I'll give you information, I'll give you things to think about, but those are your choices. I'm not here to run your life. I think I ought to say that again, right? I'm not here to run anybody's life. Hey, I have a big enough chore running my life.
Run or ruin.
Run or run, yeah. So anyway, all right. Some 5 things and that I want to give here is 5 things you need to be happy. Okay, and these are some truths that are backed up by science, and they're stated on here, but I'm not going to go through the documentation. But Shawn, he's the one that has written this. So I didn't create this, but he did. And this is out of Psychology Today. And he said these 5 things. All right. Number 1, which we've talked about a lot. Number 1, you want to know your way out? Number 1, you have to change your thinking. And the way you change your thinking is by gratitude. By recognizing the gratitude. He goes on to say here, taking the time to feel grateful for what you have in your life, and put them in your mind. See, because we are wired to look for the negative. And so our mind is filled with the negatives. So we have to concentrate on putting the positives in. Hi, Shawn. Good to see you.
It's what, 7 positives to 1 negative or something?
Einstein says it takes 11 positives to offset 1 negative. That's what Einstein said.
How many days is that?
How many what?
How many days is that?
50-some years.
Well,
I'm
Jesus
way
said that, 7 times 70, that we're supposed to give forgiveness, and that's practicing, another system of practice. And that's for every offense.
How many days is that?
That's in
It's
one
not
day.
days, it's events, okay? It's not on days, do I?
490 times in a day, I think, or
Well,
something like that, which is impossible.
They say days, I don't know that it indicates days, okay? But the fact of it is, if you do anything 490 times, you're gonna get better at what it is that you're practicing.
You're gonna become professional. Right?
Yeah, and we need to be better. So gratitude functions in a natural order of things. It helps us to recognize our relationships, and it actually encourages us to be reciprocate in good things. When you start to recognize good things, then you're more apt to respond and be proactive socially, right?
Yes.
So, number 2, journaling. Okay, journaling. A lot of people don't like journaling, but it helps us to go to a deeper level when we write something down. That's the reason why we take notes of what we need at the grocery store, right? And you may not even need your note, but you write it down. By writing it down, it helps you to organize it and remember it, right? It's called mental and emotional processing. So journaling is so important to write things down, emotional experiences that have happened. And see, our biggest tendency in life is to deny what's going on, okay, and try to block what's going on, or maybe even bury what's going on, right? Now, we can bury that, but it's not dead. It's still alive, and it'll stick its head up at the most inappropriate times, right? Yes. And so journaling helps you to actually become more aware of what's going on, the positives and the negatives, and the writing it down helps you to process. And it also helps your brain to get some clarity, because with clarity, then you are able to make better choices, right? Okay.
I write, like you said too, this day I woke up in a bad mood, and the next day I woke up in a bad mood, and the next day I woke up in a bad mood. Obviously, I'm waking up in a bad mood every morning.
There's a pattern, and what am I going to do about it? Okay.
Either keep doing it and be insane, like
Yeah.
Einstein
Yes,
said,
that's
or-
what Einstein said. So because if you're not aware, what you said earlier, if you're not aware, then you can't make any changes.
By ignoring it doesn't help.
Okay, number 3, exercise. Okay,
Yeah.
there is scientific research that's saying exercise actually helps you mentally, emotionally. It helps you to be smarter, believe it or not. It helps you in so many different levels. It compares to pharmacology therapy.
Yeah.
Okay, because and you're hearing more and more of this because our body knows, all right. And if you're exercising and you're working out the stress and you're relieving some of that and you're releasing endorphins to help you to feel better, and then it relaxes you and you're able to think and you process and you actually shift your focus from the negative, because whatever you think on, that's what you're going to get more of, right? So you focus on other things, and your brain will offer you solutions if you'll let it. All right, so it says here, So get off the meds and get moving. That's what they said. Okay, this is what Shawn said. All right, number 4, meditation. Okay, this is Carolyn Dweck. She wrote a book called Mindset. I've gone through it. I need to go back through it again, but she's sold 1 billion of them. That's what he says here. I know it's a very popular book, but she writes this for success in work, sports, art, in all kinds of endeavors in life. Okay, and that is that we need to have a growth mindset. What does that mean? Is we have to choose that we want to grow. Okay, if we go back to our story out of the scriptures, where whether the Pharisee knew it or not, he wasn't growing. Okay, he just was churning the old stuff, right? And he felt satisfied with it. You follow me? I'm trying to remember what Carolyn Dweck called that. It's not a growth mindset. I think it's a set mindset. And because we think we know all we need to know, so I'm good, so why do any more? And that causes us a problem. That's the reason why she said meditation can help us to have a growth mindset. You can have meditation, you can have prayer, you can have thinking, dreaming. I heard Neville Gardner. No, it's not Gardner. Neville. How about that? He said this. He said that awakened dream or imagination is like prayer. Okay, so if we're choosing to think in a particular way, or meditation, or thought, or goal setting, or whatever you want to say, or meditating on scriptures, or thinking about scriptures, or praying about scripture. Praying is a form of helping to direct yourself, and that's what all this is. And worry, okay, worry is the opposite, and it will direct you too. Yeah. And worry will take you places that you don't want to go, but you worry about them anyway. But whatever you think about, that's what's going to show up in your life. Hello.
It can make you sick.
And it will make you sick. Last one, random acts of kindness.
Yay!
Okay, random acts of kindness are short-term increases in your happiness. They said that random acts of kindness will actually increase your endorphins. It'll make you feel better. And people that see it or experience that kind gesture will also have a better day. They'll have a boost in their day. And when we practice these acts of kindness, then that affects us, and that it says that you should practice 5 acts of kindness every single day.
I'm happy just to let's try purposely. I purposely find 1 a day.
1 is good.
I mean, 5 would be wonderful, but I mean, I purposely focus if I'm out doing stuff for my clients to see something I can do.
Well, you may have specific category what you think act of kindness is, but an act of kindness can be holding the door for somebody, saying God bless you,
Smile.
even smiling.
Yeah.
Because see, your smile, and there's been research on this, your smile affects other people, how they feel.
Well, it affects you too.
It affects you,
Yeah.
but it also affects them. And so 5, but if you intentionally say, I want to make sure I get 5 acts of kindness today in, okay? But in reality, 5 is not all that many, right?
No, but sometimes I.
Does that really count?
Yeah, that goes back to question number 2.
Well, you're right.
But I do,
But
sometimes.
But the fact of it is, we're trying to create a habit pattern of happiness, And in the beginning, you may have, it's like anything we've ever practiced, sports or a job or anything. You practice it intentionally long enough to where it becomes unconsciously. That you are able to operate unconsciously. You don't have to think about it. So that's the goal, okay? So we have to practice what we want to be able to let it operate unconsciously. How's that? But the rest of the story, if we go back to the question, so if we practice toxic behaviors,
But we don't, yes.
then they come out unconsciously, right? So we need to be aware of our behaviors and choose what we want and practice those until they become unconscious, right? Sounds like Jennifer. So, any questions? All right. Okay. Well, if there's no questions or comments,
Too, eventually though, that comes back to you, you know.
sure.
If-
Whatever seed
It could
you
be good or
plant,
bad, could be either way, it comes back to you.
whatever seed you plant, that's what grows.
Right.
And a thought that I was thinking today is, we can count how many seeds are in an apple, but we don't know how many apples are in the seed.
Right. Because it will grow into a tree, big tree.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may His face shine upon you and give you His peace.
Make healthy choices.
Make healthy choices.
Amen.
I'm wrapped up.
Amen.